By Senator Chuck Schumer's own standards, this impeachment trial that he's about to oversee as majority leader is a sham. There will be no witnesses called. In 2020, let me read you quotes from Chuck Schumer. So far, neither Senator McConnell nor any Republican senator has articulated a single good reason why the trial shouldn't have these witnesses or these documents, Schumer said in 2020. Trials have witnesses. That's what trials are all about, he said. What is a trial with no witnesses and no documents? It's a sham trial. There are clearly coordinated talking points today that they don't need witnesses because all of them were witnesses, except a year ago, Chuck Schumer said Senate Democrats believe strongly the trial must be fair, and it's very important that the American people judge it to be fair. A fair trial is one where senators get all the facts and one that allows them to adjudicate the case impartially. If they're saying that the senators themselves are the witnesses, then they're saying the senators themselves can't really be impartial here because they are involved emotionally or otherwise. This isn't a trial. It's not designed to be a trial. It's going to be a spectacle. It is performance art to scratch an itch by the Democrats and placate their base and members of the media. And that's important because there are a lot of members of the media, including some people who I consider friends, who are so livid about what happened on January 6th, they think there must be repercussions, and they will be on television today in high dudgeon over the fact that this is all about accountability and the righteousness of the cause, and they will be ignoring Chuck Schumer's own words that a trial without witnesses is a sham. This is not about convicting the President of the United States or even trying. They could give it the old college try, but they're not even trying. This is about defining the Republican Party as being tied to Donald Trump. They want to tie Donald Trump around the Republicans' neck and dare them to publicly repudiate him in some way. Members of the media on the right and the left, they will puff up their chests in righteous indignation over what's going on now. Some will say he deserves it. Some will say the GOP deserves it. Some will say they deserve each other. Some will say a pox on all their houses. Some will say the GOP is broken. Some will say it's irreconcilable. It's not fixable. It must be sent to the ash heap of history. And they're not even going to try to do that today. There were a lot of Republican legal minds after Richard Nixon resigned who argued at the time in writing that Nixon's impeachment could still go forward even though he resigned and he could still be convicted. And for political expedience now, a lot of them have flip-flopped. They're now saying, oh, no, pay no attention to me then. Pay attention to me now. We have historic precedent of the United States Senate in following through with an impeachment trial of someone who had left office. It wasn't a president, but they've done it before. There is precedent for this. But at the same time, while I'm pointing this out, we should at least be intellectually honest enough to point out that a year ago, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats collectively said you've got to have witnesses for there to be a real trial or it's a sham. And now they're saying, nope, forget that. Whether you want to hear it or not, arguably the former president of the United States incited that mob. A woman was shot and killed. A police officer died. Other people died. There really should be an accounting for what happened. And that should, in my opinion, involve Donald Trump. This is not going to be that accounting. This is not going to be a trial worth even considering. The Senate wants to move on as quickly as possible. The Democrats want to move on. They got to go through the performance art. They want to make it political. Chuck Schumer wants to do this and try to tar and feather the Republicans so he can stay majority leader for more than 2 years. He's desperate to be majority leader for longer than that. The Senate rules don't allow them to just ignore an impeachment. They got to have the trial. And all it's going to be is a sham, according to Chuck Schumer. According to his own words, this is a sham. Neither side really wants to do this. In fact, in 2020, the Republicans didn't even cut a deal on the rules with the Democrats. The Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, came to a bipartisan consensus on the rules. And there's all sorts of high-minded articles today all over the press about here's how the Democrats will deploy their impeachment rules to make it super painful on the Republicans and make them deal with this. Except they're not going to call the witnesses. They're not going to call the Capitol Hill police officers to describe what they saw. They're not going to call members of the House to describe what they saw. They're not gonna bring up the QAnon shaman dude who's in Washington D.C. with an organic diet. Nope. They're not going to call him up. He's in town. He's in jail. They know where he is. They're not going to call him. He's been saying he was following Donald Trump, but they're not going to bring him up. We now know in the last 24 hours, there were multiple people in the White House who were telling various senators, including Ben Sasse, who is on record saying it, that multiple staffers to the president were shocked and appalled by the president's behavior on January 6th, that the president was cheering on the people storming the Capitol and was amazed and angered that no one else in the White House was as excited as he was by what was going on. We don't know who the names of these staffers are. They're not calling these people as witnesses. There will be no witnesses. Senate Democrats are essentially admitting it's a waste of time. So all of you who think there should be an accounting, scream your moral indignation about January 6th. You're right. I've already written about this. I've already written my views on this. But you should be screaming at the Democrats because they're abandoning their own standard for what constitutes a legitimate trial just to get it over with and move on. Chuck Schumer in 2020. Senate Democrats believe strongly the trial must be fair, and it's very important that the American people judge it to be fair. A fair trial is one where senators get all the facts and one that allows them to adjudicate the case impartially. What a trial with no witnesses is a sham trial. That was then. Now he just wants to move on and maybe score some political points along the way. There will be no accountability.